Hello and welcome to the dashboard course by Trump Excel. I am Sumit Bansal, and in this video I will introduce you to Excel charting. This video would be a bit longer as compared to other videos because there are a lot of aspects of Excel charting that I would cover. If you're already well versed with Excel charting, you may want to skip this lesson, but I would highly recommend that you go through it once because there are many things that I talk about, including chart formatting and error bars and a lot of things. So let's get started. Here I have some data for monthly sales for 6 months, and I'll show you how to create various charts using this data. But before I show you that, one thing I need to highlight is that there are some differences between 2013 and the prior versions, which is 2010 and 7. While all the options are available in both these versions, the placement of these options may be a bit different. So you may access an option here differently as compared to 2010 or 7. So for example, I'll show you as I go forward in this course, and I would keep on highlighting the differences there are between 2013 and 2010 and 7. But needless to say that all the options that are available in 2007 and 10 are also here in 2013, and vice versa. There is new additional option that has come up that would give you a very breakthrough functionality. Nothing like that. All these things are also available in 2010 and 2007. Now let me show you how you can insert a basic chart. I would first select this entire data, and I would go to insert, and within insert you have this group called charts, and this is where you can insert all the charting functionalities, use all the charting functionalities, insert various charts. This option, recommended chart, is something which is new to 2013, and if you click on it, it gives you a set of recommended charts. So in this case you can see there are 4 recommended charts in this tab called recommended charts, and then there is all chart tab where you can simply select a chart that you want to insert and insert it. So this is a new functionality in 2013, but this does not mean that you cannot insert a chart in 2010. You can insert all these available charts in 2010 or 2007 as well. And again, it may not be always be a good recommendation. You may not want to present your data the way Excel wants you to. So anyway, it is a good option here, but I would still recommend that you go to the relevant chart option individually and then insert it. Now in this case, let me start by inserting a simple 2D column chart, and as soon as I click on it, you can see that this is something that has come up. Now this is an object that floats freely on this worksheet, which means that I can move it anywhere I want, and it is on this worksheet. If I have to access this chart, I would have to first come to this sheet and select it. It is similar to any object that you insert, any shape that you insert, but you get a lot more flexibility in terms of charting. So as soon as I click on this chart, you see that I have these 2 contextual tabs available within chart tools category. I have design tab and format tab. Again, a difference between 2013 and prior versions. In prior versions there were 3 tabs: design, layout and format. In this case there are only 2, and what the team in Microsoft has done is they have included all the options of layout within these 2 tabs. So they have picked up, for example, insert shapes was earlier in layout, it is now in format, and add chart element was a separate group within 2010 and 7, but it is now here in this group chart layouts. So as I mentioned, nothing has changed. You can access all the options in 2010 and 7 into 13 and vice versa. It is just the placement that has changed. Now this is a simple chart that I've inserted. It has January, February, March and all these 6 months on x-axis, and their values are plotted as column charts here. Now let me show you all the different kinds of charts there are. So you can insert a 2D chart. There is something called as a 2D cluster chart. So if I click on it, I do not have another series data, but in case I had, say, these are sales for 2012, and I have, say, sales value for 2013 as well. So let me copy paste it and let me change these values. So I would use rand between 100 500, control enter, and let me paste this as values. Now if I select this entire data set, I go here and I say 2D column chart, you can see that it has inserted this chart, which you see with the blue line indicating sales for 2010 and orange cluster or orange segment indicating the sales for 2013. I've just written it wrong here. So this is how you can use cluster chart. Let me delete this. I don't want to use this data set. I only want to use this part. The other charts that you can insert here are 3D column chart. Again, if you are a fan of 3D, then you may want to use it. I've never used 3D charts. Then we have these options in 2D line chart. So these are very important charts if you are trying to show a trend or a line, and you can see that you can choose a simple line chart or you can choose a line chart with a marker. Again, there is a 3D option and I'm not a fan of it, so I would skip it. In pie chart, you have this normal pie chart that you can create. You have this pie chart where you can talk about individual segment. Let me insert it and show you. So in this case, if you look at this pie chart, these are all the sales segment which I have, and the largest segment, which is for May, you can individually break this down and you can see how this value is performing. So this is one of the ways you can create a pie chart. Let me delete this. Again, select this data, go to insert and look at other options. You have a donut chart, you have this 3D pie chart that you can create. You also have 2D bar charts, but these are different. Those were vertical bar charts, these are horizontal bar charts, and you can have cluster bar charts here, stacked bar charts, and 3D bar charts. And we'll see some examples of these kinds of bar charts when we take more data and look into individual examples. You can have these area charts. Again, there are 3D options as well as normal options. You can have scatter chart, and I use this extensively in my work. You have all these options, especially the XY, simple XY scatter chart. You also have bubble charts in case you have a data point, XY data point, and you also have the size of the bubble. Then these are good charts to use. You also get access to stock charts. These are not getting displayed in this case because a stock chart would need a high, low, and average and closing price values. So these are the charts that you can use if you're working with share price data. You have surface chart and you have radar chart, and you can see these are the charts you can use. Again, these are very specific and not everyone uses these, so I would not spend a lot of time on these very specific charts, but I would cover all the functionalities. And there is something which is new in 2013 which is called combo charts, and I would talk about it. Combo charts are nothing but a combination of different elements. You could have a bar chart and at the same time you could have a line chart, and I will show you how this makes more sense. Now when you have the chart ready, there are a couple of things that you can do very easily using the mouse and the options that are very easily accessible. The first is changing or moving this chart. So for example, if I have to move this chart around, I can use my mouse and I can move it around like I do for any object in Excel. If you have to resize it, then you can see that there are these small change in shape that you see at the corners. So you can simply go to the corner and resize this chart. You can extend this horizontally or vertically, however you want this to be. So this is how you can resize your chart. If you want to copy your chart, you can simply press Ctrl C and go to the location where you want to paste it and press Ctrl V, and the chart would be copied exactly. You can also do this for different worksheets or some other workbook as well. And if you have to delete this chart, simply click on it and press delete, and the entire chart would be gone. Let me press Ctrl Z to bring it back. Now we see that there are these vertical bars for January, February, which are plotted based on the value. These are elements of this chart. So a chart would have various elements. You can simply add an element or modify an element by clicking on this plus sign. Now again, this is a 2013 feature. This is not available in 2010 or 7, but in case you want to modify any element or add any element, then you can go to the tab where it says chart layouts. In 2010 and 7 it would be in the layout tab, and you would have this entire list in prior versions. Here you have this drop down, add chart element, and you have all these elements here. So I would talk about all these elements and their formatting, but a very quick way to add or modify the element is just go here and you can simply click on it and it will show you. In 2013, a good feature is that when you hover over these options, it shows you a live preview in the chart, which is not there in 2010 and 7. There, if you have to apply a change, you would first have to select it, do whatever you want to do, and then click OK in the dialog box or select the option, and only then it would be displayed in the chart. But in this case, you can see that as I hover my mouse over these options are automatically shown here. A live preview is shown. So this is a good part. The 2013 has made charting really easy. So these are all the options that you can use, and you can add these options. Again, you can also use this plus sign here, which is a 2013 specific feature, and if you want to remove access, then simply uncheck this and the access would be gone. If you want to change these options, if you want more access, then you can click on more options, and there are all these available here. These are exactly the same as you saw here. I would say this gives you a lot more control, but again, this is a quick way to access these options. You also have these style color options. So here, if you want to change the way your chart looks, then you can use this. And again, you have the filter option here in case you want to hide any of these data points. So for example, I do not want January and February value, then I can simply hide it, and if I apply it, those values would not be there. So these are good functionalities that are included in 2013. These are not there in 2010, but nevertheless, it does not mean that you cannot do it in 2010 or 7. You can simply do it by using other means. Now let me show you how to change this chart. So for example, when you've selected this data and you've inserted this chart, you may want to change the chart type. You do not want column bar charts, you may want a line chart. So you can simply do this by clicking on any of these elements, any of these bars, right click and select the option change series chart type. And when you click on this option, it opens this dialog box, change chart type. And here you can select whatever you want. So for example, if you want a line chart, you can see that this is how it would look. And once you have finalized that this is exactly how I want my data to look, then you can click OK. And as soon as I click OK, you can see that the bars are gone and it has been converted into a line chart. So this is how you can quickly change the chart type. You need not delete that chart, select the data again and insert this kind of chart type. You can simply right click, go to change series chart type, and again, if I want it back in say bar chart, but this kind of horizontal bar chart, then I can click OK and this change is done. Now let me talk about all the various chart elements that you can change, or you can add, or you can modify. If you look at this chart, there are certain things that you would see up front. First is this title, chart title. This is one of the element. Then you see these bar charts, vertical bar charts. This is again a data point, a series that we have added. This is one of the element. Then you see these values, January, February, March. These are titles, category titles. You see these numbers here. These are values for your vertical axis. And then you see these lines here. These are the grid lines. If you click on it, you can see that these grid lines have been selected. This entire area is the plot area. So there are various chart elements, and these are not all the chart elements. There are many more that you can add or you can modify. So let's talk about these in this part of the video. If I click my chart and I go to design, I have this option add chart element. As mentioned in 2010 and 7, you would find these options in the layout tab. If I click on it, it gives me all these available chart elements for this particular type of chart. So if I go and select axis, you can see that it shows me primary axis, primary vertical, primary horizontal. So in this case, you can get these axis titles added, or you can have more access option. Let me click on more access option, and as soon as you click on it, you have this task pane available. Now this is one difference between 2013 and earlier versions. In earlier versions, it would open a dialog box. In this case, it opens a task pane, and whenever you make a change here, it is visible in the chart, so you have a live preview. Now it may look a bit complicated, but again, as I mentioned, there are all these options that are available in 2010 and 2007 as well. So now if I want to change these titles, these axis, January, February, these are, as you can see, these are horizontally category axis. So I can change all these. I can have these options available. If I say I want the axis position on tick marks, then you can see that this changes the position on where these axes, these titles would be displayed. You can use vertical axis crosses. So this is the vertical axis and it is crossing at, right now it is automatic, so it is here. But if I choose at category number 3 and I hit enter, you can see that now this crosses here at category number 3, which is right before March. Let me click this and make this automatic. And you can also choose at maximum category. This is the maximum category because June is the last category here, so it crosses here. Let me make it automatic. Again, you have the automatically select based on data axis. In case you have date values here, then it would be displayed in a different way. Here I have text values, I have January, February, but in case I had say 1st January 2014, 1st February 2014, then this data would take into account that these months are separated by these many number of days. So for example, the difference between January and February would be same as between February and March. So in this case, if I do not have the data for April, it would leave it blank. So this is just a way Excel interprets it, but again, you have the option to change these, and you get a lot of things available in case you can fill it. So for example, if you want to fill these numbers with some say red color, gaudy color, then you can use this. You have the gradient fill, you have picture that you can put here. So there are all these formatting options you can access through the format access task pane. You also have all these options available through the home ribbon as well. So for example, if I go here and I make these changes, it would also be accessible. So it's good to know, but again, you may not always use these because this does not, to be honest, look professional or good enough. And then you have a lot more options. You have text options here where you can use no fill, solid fill, you can use gradient fill, so your text would be in a gradient way. If you want to change the color of the text, then you can go and change the color of the text. Let me control Z and go back. So these are all the options. You can also use text outline if you want to give a border to it. If you select this, then you can see that there we have a border to these text. Now this may not look very good, so you may want to be very cautious on how you want to choose these options, but this is how you can format the axis. You have the tick marks option available here. In this case, it says that the tick mark should be, and you can see the tick mark is very minor tick mark that you see between these bars. But if I change this to say from outside to inside, then you can see that this tick mark has changed. Similarly, you can make it none or you can make it cross, and you can see that now it has become a bit longer, and now you can see it at both sides of this line. Similarly, you can make it none and it will not be available. So these are some formatting level options that are available. I'm talking about these in the video, but it would be best if you go and create a chart and look at these options by yourself. These are available in all the versions of Excel, 2003, 2007, 10 or 13. You can also specify the distance from axis, you can specify the interval, you can specify the label position. In this case, it is next to axis. If I put this at high position, it goes up. You can make it low and it goes down again. You can make it none, so it goes away. So it's again all these options that you can use. I would keep it next to axis for now. And then you have this option of number, and where you can specify the formatting. So for example, as of now I have general formatting here, but again you can change this. You can maybe make it in case it had been numbers, you can make this look differently. For example, in this case, if I select the vertical axis, I have all these vertical axis options. If I go to number, I can change this to custom, and here in formatting I would type a format code. So for example, I can simply type general, and in double quotes I can type millions. Now when I add this, you can see that now millions is added to this these values, but again this is not what I want, so I would go back to the normal formatting that was being used. So all these options are available. You can play around with these options. You have the alignment options, you have the shadow, glow, soft edges, and 3D format options. All these options you can play around with. Let me again come back to the chart elements in design tab. I would again go to axis titles, and these are the titles for January, February. So if you want to say months here, then you can simply add axis title and type something here. So for example, if I type months here, then this becomes my axis title. Similarly, you can also have a vertical axis title. If I go to design, again chart elements, you have a primary horizontal axis title. You can also have a vertical axis title. If you want more control, then you can use more axis title options again. You have the flexibility to change the chart title's position. In this case, it is above chart. You can make it center overlay if you want, and you can again get a lot more options available. In this case, again all these options are available. You can put it at the alignment of this text within this text box. You can make the changes in terms of its shape, its size, its font, its color, and these are all available here. You can also go to the home ribbon and make these changes. So again, there are n number of ways you can access all these options, and you can do a lot of things. Let me again go back to design to chart elements. Now we have data labels. Data labels means that these values, so these bar charts have been plotted based on the values here. So January is 350, and now if I hover over February, it says 235. But it is a good idea to let your user see these values so he would be able to interpret the graph easily. In this case, you can simply right click on this bar chart and go to add data label and add data labels here. But you can also do this by going to the design tab, add chart element, data label, and you can add the data labels. Again, it gives you a lot of flexibility. You want it in the center, inside end, inside base, outside end, or data call out. So these are the options that you can use. I believe data call out is again one of the options which is available only in 2013. It's not there. I've not seen it in 2010 or 7. Then you have data table options. So for example, if you are only displaying this chart without the data, you may want to also show the data below the chart, and this is one of the way of doing it. As soon as I click with legend keys, you can see that it says sales 2012, and these values are here below January, February. So this is a good way where your user would be able to understand that these are the values. Again, an alternative could be to just add data labels, but in case you have many series here, so yeah, you have data for 2012, 13 and 14, then you may want to have these data tables as well. Then you have error bars. Error bars, let me talk about error bars, and I will show you a very good example on how we can use it to create very good and dynamic charts. But let me talk about it. Error bars are nothing but it will show you the error that you want for that particular data point. So in this case, if you select this date error bar and you look at format error bars task pane, if it is not available, do not worry. If you want to make this available, so for example it is not there, you can simply double click on the error bar, or you can just right click and select format error bars, and this task pane would be available. If you're working with 2010 and 7, then a dialog box would be available. In error bar, you can see that it says vertical error bar because this is a vertical column bar that I have. In this case, you can say you want error for both sides. So this is my data point and the error bar is extending to both sides. You may only want it for minus, which would extend only below the point, or you can want it only above, which is plus, above the point. Let me extend this chart so that you can have a good look at error bars. Let me click on error bars. Now you can also choose the end style. You can see that if I do not click on it, you can see that there is this T shape which is coming up. There is a horizontal line right above where the error ends. If you do not want it, then you can simply say no cap, else you can keep the cap. And then you can fix the value. In this case, it is standard error, which is some way of just putting the error here. I think it is one standard deviation, but to be honest, I'm not really sure. No, it is not. It is not one. It is based on the data set. But if I click one standard deviation, then this is what it would give you. If you select percentage, then it would give you the error based on the percentage. So for example, let me show you something. I select minus and I say 100%. And when I leave this, when I click, when I click somewhere else, then you can see that this error bar has extended up till the end because I said 100% error. So this entire thing is an error and the error bar has extended up till the end. So this is one of the ways. I will show you how you can use it to your benefit, but these are ways you can use error bars, and these may be useful in some of the cases if you're working with statistical data. And you can also use custom type where you can specify the value, the positive value or the negative value. So this is how you can add error bars. Let me again go back to add chart element, and you have grid lines here. As I mentioned, these are horizontal grid lines. These are major grid lines, but if you want minor grid lines, then you can also have that available. So in this case, I have primary, major, vertical grid lines. As soon as I hover my mouse over it, you can see that vertical grid lines appear, and if I click on it, you have these grid lines. These are vertical grid lines and these are horizontal grid lines, and these are major grid lines. The reason you may want to use it is because it gives a better look to your chart and it makes comparison easy. In this case, you know, it is easier to compare, but in case this data point had been up high here, so for example, let me say if I make it 3 345, then it makes it easier to identify for a user that yes, there is some difference and this value is less than this value. Let me control Z. So this is one way you can add horizontal or vertical grid lines. Let me again go back to add chart element. And then you have legend. Legend is something which might be really important because in this case we only have one sales series. But if you have many series, say for example sales 2012 and units 2012 and sales 2013 and units 2013, then it may become difficult for a user to understand what color represents what. So it is a good idea to have the legend. Again, you can decide the position of the legend, you can change the way it looks, you can change the individual elements within legend if you want to. For example, if you want to change the font size, the color, or if you want to change the way it is filled, then all these things can be done. Let me again go back to design and chart element, again come back to legend. In legend you can also specify the positions. For example, in this case it is right. You can want the legend to be at the top, at left, or at bottom. I've seen a lot of charts that look good are those that have legend at the bottom. But again, if you want more flexibility, you can click on more legend options and you would have the format legend task pane available, again with similar kind of options that we've already seen. So you can choose all these wherever you want to. For example, you can specify the position of the legend. You can have again this the shadow, glow, and soft edges. Again, let me go to add chart element, and here you also can insert a trend line. So for example, if I say linear trend line, that it would tell me that this is the trend that is visible through your data. If you want an exponential trend line or forecast values, then you can use all these options. If you work with a lot of statistical data, then this may make more sense for your graphs. So these are all the chart elements that you can use, and if you want to change a chart element, add it or modify it, then you can add chart element from here. And if you want to modify, just double click on any of the chart element and it would open the format series format task pane. In case you're working with prior versions, it would open a dialog box, and within that you can choose the relevant options and you can format these chart elements. Here I have the monthly sales data for 2012 for these 6 months, and I also have the units data here. Now let me plot this data in a clustered chart. So I would go to insert, here I would select 2D clustered column chart. Now this suffers from two drawbacks, this type of chart. First is that this data is misleading. In this case, if I see here, it says 25, but these blue bars represent values of revenue in millions. So in this case it represents 350 million, but if I look here, I would believe that this is 25 million, which is not the case. So this data is misleading. So to take care of it, we can create a combination chart. Let me show you first how to change this bar chart into a line chart. Simply right click on it and go to change series chart type, and here you can simply select line chart here. If you are using 2010 or 2007, then you may not see these drop downs, but you would see simple options here like these, and in this case you can simply select what you want and click OK. So in this case, let me again go back, right click and go to change series chart type, and here I would select line chart with marker, stack line with marker, and now when I click OK, you can see that the bar has been converted into a line chart, but again it suffers from the same drawback. The reason being that the scale has to be different. This has revenue which is in millions, but these are units which are in numbers. So I would have to change the scale, and to do that I would have to create a secondary axis here, and to do that I would go select the line chart, right click and select format data series, and here I have the series option, and I would select secondary axis, and as soon as I select secondary axis, you can see that this chart has changed, and now I have this secondary axis here which ranges from 0 to 60, and these values are plotted here in this line chart. So now I have different scales. I have a scale from 0 to 400 million for bar chart, and I have these units values here in this line chart. So this is a much better representation of the data, and it does not distort the facts that are in this data set. Now you may want to format a bit. So for example, if you want to change the color of the marker, you can simply go to the format data series, click on this fill option, select marker and change the color of the marker. In this case, maybe I want to make it not blue, but maybe green. So this is how you can play around with it. You can add border or whatever you want. You may also want to change these values. So in this case it varies from 0 to 60, and you may want to vary it from 0 to 100. So in that case, simply select this or press Ctrl 1. That will open the task pane or the format cells dialog box, or you can again right click and click on format axis, and it opens the format axis dialog box. And here you can specify the bounds axis options. You can specify the minimum bound and maximum bound. In this case minimum is 0 and maximum is 60. I can change this to 100, and as soon as I click somewhere, you can see that the change is done. Now this line has come down a bit because the scale has changed from 0 to 100. Similarly, if I do not want this to display 10 and 30 and 50, I only want it to display 20, 40 and 60 so that it looks evenly spaced, I would go here and I would change the major axis, major unit to 20. And as soon as I click here now, you can see that it only displays 0, 20, 40. Also, you see that here in this level, in this horizontal category axis, you have this line, but it looks a bit odd because these numbers look like they're hanging in there. So we can have a line for it. Simply go to the fill part, and in line options, just introduce a line. Maybe I would use this color, and as soon as I use this color, you can see that a line has been introduced. Similarly, you can do this for this data as well. You can say that you do not want these major axis to be in 50, maybe you want it in 200, and you want a line here. So you go to this option and you select a color, and now you can see that it says 0, 200 and 400. Maybe you do not want this horizontal grid line. You can delete this. If you want it, then you can keep it. So this is how you can create a combination chart, and it would help you in representing data which has different values or different scales in a way there you can compare these. So for example, you can similarly see that in this case the units were sold were 25, but the revenue was really high. In the next year the units sold were more than the last year, but the revenue fell. So this is how you can compare these different levels of data points, different scales of data points in a combination chart. Here I have some data of the date and the sales done on that date. This is some dummy data that I have created. You can assume that this is a data for retail store, and there are some days when the store was closed. Maybe it was a national holiday, or for whatever reason the store was closed and the sales value is not available. So now if I plot this data on a line chart, so select this data, I go to insert and I plot this in a line chart, this is what you would get. And this looks very weird because there are so many gaps in this data, and it is difficult to identify and point out what is the trend, how is it going. So to take care of it, there is a functionality that we can use in Excel. If you go to the design tab and go to this option select data and click on it, it opens the select data source dialog box. This is a very important dialog box in Excel charting, and I will talk about it more when I show you examples. But to talk about it briefly, this is where you can add series to your chart. So for example, in this case I only have one series, which is the sales data, but if I had say profit data or cost data, then I could have added a new series by clicking on the add button, and you can give a series name and then you can input the series values. In this case, let me remove it. You can also edit the existing series, so I would click the series and I would click on edit, and it opens the edit series dialog box, and you can change the references or the data if you want, and you can also edit the horizontal category axis labels using this edit button. It also has this option of hidden and empty cells, and if you click on it, you can see there are three options: show empty cells as gaps, zero, or connect data point with line. Now if I go back to my chart, let me go back to the chart that I've created. Let me pull it up so that it is visible while I'm talking about the dialog box. Alright, now if I go to select data, click on hidden and empty, and click on connect data points with line, and click OK, and okay, see what happens. Excel has connected these lines for me, and now this data makes a lot more sense because I can see a trend. I know there are certain data points where there was a gap, but all it has done is it has connected the previous data point with the next data point with a line, and this now makes a lot more sense. So in case you have a data set where there are gaps, then you can use this technique to connect these. If you choose other options, so for example if you choose 0, then it would show you as this. So this is not what I want, because this drops the value to 0. It means that there was no sale done, and it is misrepresentation because it means that the store was open but the sale was 0, which is not the case. So in this particular case, this option of connect data points with line is the best option. In case you are using filters or you have hidden rows, you can also use this option show data in hidden rows and columns. And let me show you what I mean. For example, if I go and I hide these columns, these rows. So if I go here and I hide these, you can see that this data is not now visible, is now not visible in my chart because it is hidden. But that should not be the case. So I would go again to select data, hidden data and empty, and I would check this box which says show data in hidden rows and empty, and I would click on connect data points with line. So now even if I hide all my data, I would still have this and there are no gaps in this. So this is how you can handle gaps and hidden rows in Excel. That is it in this video. We will talk more about Excel charting in our subsequent videos. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you and have a nice day.